Hello and welcome. I'm Tim and this is SV Paquita. Come along almost every week whenever I get a chance to post a video and follow along as I try to make the transition from being a professional lifelong mariner to cruising a sailboat, mostly offshore, but sometimes in the coastal waters. Right now we're in New England and we're getting ready to go through the Cape Cod Canal and head up towards Maine. Spend the rest of the season in the Gulf of Maine. So come along, strap in, and hope you like it. A deep water island, 16 miles off the coast of Maine, only gets about 1 or 2 or maybe 3 at the most beautiful days a year where it's flat calm with no swell or anything. And we just happened to be there. It was amazing. If you guys remember from the last video, I think we left you eating lobsters here in Monhegan Harbor, the banana on the backdrop. And this is the next morning. I got up, and while the coffee was brewing, I was able to launch the drone and take a shot of how still everything was that morning. You can see how high the tide, I mean, not how high, but how much tide they get over there. There's usually about 10 or 12 feet of tide, and it's pretty low water right now. You can see all that dark, tide mark right there. But anyway, we'd spent the night having all kinds of fun out there, and Crystalita was all happy because she was catching mackerel and pollock, and we had a couple little ones that we filleted up, and, well, actually we didn't fillet, we cut and pan-fried them for breakfast in the morning, just like my mother used to make when I was a kid. So that was all kinds of fun. But before too long, we knew we had to get going that day, so we packed up the dinghy and ran off down to the southern end of the island to where my dad had built a house for us that I grew up in. We went to the southern tip, what we call Lobster Cove, and got the drone up in the air and showed you. If you look over here, this is actually the wreck of the DT Sheraton. The DT Sheraton was a tugboat that in November of 1948 was running from Norfolk up to Bangor with a load of 2 barges loaded with coal, and in heavy fog she ran aground. She was about 110 feet long and a gross registered ton of 257 tons, and she went up on the rocks, and luckily, they say the way the story goes, a local person on the island went and saved the whole crew, and they lost no hands, so that's a good thing. But anyway, flying the drone over here for the art lovers among us. If you guys know the American painters, the Wyeths, this is actually Jamie Wyeth's house, son of Andrew Wyeth, and a neighbor of mine growing up. It was fun flying the drone over places that I had seen from eye level and never really looked over before and been able to see in the water. This rock little island that sticks out over here is called Norman's Ledge. And I can remember when I was fishing with Lexi Krause as a kid, we'd come in here and of course, it's a beautiful, flat, calm day here. It's usually rarely like that when we're fishing, but we'd come in here, and he'd run the boat in between here, and it'd scare us to death that we were going to die. But now looking over it, you can look down and see, well, look at that. It does look like there's plenty of water in there as long as nothing goes wrong. I was having all kinds of fun flying the drone. I think if you notice the difference between the green and the blue in the water's the same. I think it's just how the sun was, shining through different angles. One way I was looking straight down, the other way I was looking where the sun's bouncing off of the water and makes it look bluer. But flying back, we are now headed almost southwest, so we're coming around the southern tip of the island here, back around Lobster Cove. You can see the DT Sheraton's over there on the right-hand side. I think in another video years ago, or last year when I was out here, I told you that as kids, it was fun at night to come down here, and it gets chilly up in Maine, at nighttime, and so it'd be cool, and you could lay in between the rub rails of that thing even 9-10 o'clock at night, and so much heat from the sun would have heated up all that metal, and you could lay right in the rails and it'd be all nice and warm and look up at the stars. And of course, there's no street lights, so there's really no a lot of, when I was growing up, there was no electricity on the island other than private generators, so there's no light pollution. But anyway, while I was running things around, I saw a nice little center console out here, and I figured I'd run out, have a look, see what he was up to. This really seems like a one in a million day. It was so nice. Incidentally, it was funny. Those that are following my Instagram account know that I went back to Maine last week, and I was hoping to do a 50th reunion of our school, and there's a one-room schoolhouse on the island there, and a bunch of us were trying to all get up there from all the parts of the country to reenact a photo that we had taken almost 50 years ago. I think it was actually 49 years ago. But anyway, the storm came and the ferries were canceled, and I didn't feel like getting beat up with Paquita, only to go out there and have nobody else show up. So unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. But just goes to show you, it's usually rough way out there, and it was gorgeous on this day. And so here I am racing the drone all around, having all kinds of fun. But so something kind of interesting happened later on. If you remember, I told you I had to get out of here by the afternoon so I could get into Boothbay Harbor later on that day. But when we went back to one of the hotels called the Monhegan House there, I put the drone up, had a little bit of battery left. The Black Duck there is a store that sells all kinds of cool stuff. When I grew up, it was the grocery store, but the island is what they call a sole source aquifer. In other words, there's only one place that you can get fresh water, and this is what we grew up calling the meadow. And what's amazing to me is that I grew up remembering this to be mostly water, or at least wet. Like, you see that water over there in the corner? Well, I just moved the camera, but all of this is filled in since then. And now, granted, this was late in August, and so it was the driest time of the year and all that. But I remember my friend Courtney from Cape Ann Towing. He and I used to bring our skiffs over, and we'd go all around in the meadow. And it's amazing how that's filled in. And I wonder if it's just been a dry year, but I suspect that it's just how things evolve. But anyway, over here I started getting really, putting the drone up higher and higher, and I had this crazy idea to run off towards the lighthouse, and I didn't really think that I had that kind of range on the drone. And so I still had some battery left, so I shot off to the lighthouse, and it was kind of cool. So in the last video, I told you that I would tell you a little story growing up about the lighthouse. Growing up, we'd always heard that Monhegan was the second highest lighthouse on the coast of Maine, with second only to Seguin Island. But Seguin's light was actually lower, but they had a mast on top of their lighthouse that made it a couple feet taller than ours. I don't know if any of that is true. As I get older, I realize a lot of the folklore that we were told as a child turns out that it was just somebody telling a good story to us kids. But anyway, it's, as you can see, it's way up there. It was nice. When I was living on the island, there used to be a fence around the lighthouse, and the lighthouse was actually powered from the Monhegan Island. There's a fog signal station over there, a Coast Guard station that had a series of generators, and it would power the lighthouse. And they decommissioned the Coast Guard station over there and made this all, powered by photovoltaics or solar power, and the light is on its own now. So after doing an orbit around the lighthouse, I headed back, shot down all the way down, headed for the harbor. But it sure was a beautiful day and a fun day to do this sort of stuff. The drone flies a lot better when there's not a whole bunch of wind. This is looking at the island inn there. My friend Lance, I don't know if you saw the videos from last year, but he's a professor at Maine Maritime now. His parents owned that back when we were kids, so I grew up hanging out there all the time when I was very little. And now I think my battery's probably beeping right now, so I'm headed back, and it was about that time to pack everything up and get back to the boat and start headed for Boothbay, thinking that there was no wind and that we'd have to motor the whole way, but maybe fortune would be with us.
Pero tú verás, hay otra que yo te tiré sola que está bonita, tío.
Oh, better turn off the music before the YouTube police catch me for copyright infringements. Well, we didn't think we'd have any wind to sail, and we only have like, it's saying 7 knots apparent, 6 knots, 5.8 knot true wind speed. So we're making a little bit of wind, but it's gorgeous. There's Manana and Monhegan. We're making our way to Boothbay. Crystalita got beat up. Crystalita, show us your scars. She was filming down by the water in Lobster Cove, and a wave caught her and put her on her butt, and she got knocked around pretty hard, but she's tough. They make Dominicans to be able to take the weather. But anyway, I'm just tickled pink that we're able to sail. I thought for sure we'd have to motor the whole way. Rare that it's this calm without even hardly anything of a swell. You can see the wind. I don't know if you can see the wind up there, but we're not exactly pinching, but the wind is a little bit forward of the beam, and we're cruising along at 4.7 right now, 4.6, 4.7, 4.8. So I'm happy. So if everything goes right, we got 15 miles to go, 14.9 miles to go, and we should get in by 3 o'clock this afternoon. I got a feeling we might have to start the engine before that, but oh, what a great time it was going back to Monhegan. Saw all kinds of friends I haven't seen for ages, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm so happy to share these moments with Crystalita so she can see where I grew up. And unfortunately, she got a little too close to the water and got bit, but she's now for the wiser for it. So anyway, it's beautiful. You guys see? And look, all you guys that tell me how it's such bad etiquette to leave my fenders overboard, that's a step. It's not a fender. I guess it's really a fender step. But I leave it over there. That's how we board. So that's to get on and off. It's not like leaving my fenders over. My fenders are back here, damn it. Anyway, that's all we have to report from now. I think I'm going to go downstairs. I've made a loaf of bread. And I think I'm gonna cook us up some lobster rolls. Life is tough. Vamos, vamos, vamos. Mas. Now this was kind of cool. As we were going, it was so flat. All of a sudden I saw something up in the water that was a familiar sight for a long time when I was fishing offshore at Caches. And this is something called what we call a sunfish. I think other people in the world call it a mola. Mola, something like that. It's known to be one of the... It's funny, if you can't really see it really well here. Fortunately, Crystalita was shooting some, and you'll see some of her video here from her phone.
Oh, no,
but it's supposed to be the largest bonefish in the ocean, meaning that it's a fish with a bone, as opposed to a shark that doesn't have bones. It's all cartilage. But they eat jellyfish, and they go down way down deep and eat all the jellyfish where it's really cold, and then they come up and they warm up on the surface, and then they get warm and they go back down. It's really kind of fun for Cristalita to see it. But before too long, the White Islands came into view, and we got closer and closer to Boothbay, and more traffic was blowing coming out the other way, and oh my God, what a beautiful day of sailing it was. It was times like this where I say, it's very rare that you get to sail and not have it be really rough. When the wind's blowing, it's usually nasty, and we weren't making any speed records, but we sure were having a good time. And here's another sailboat coming at us the other way, and they were having a good time as well, and it was wonderful. But anyway, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate the support, and thank you to all the patrons out there. And if you want to be a patron, I'll put a link in the description. We'd love to have you on board. You guys take care, be safe, and as always, I'll see you guys on the one.